Porsche first launched the Taycan, it was a groundbreaking, proper sports saloon gone electric, and it also managed to succeed in a market where competition was, well, virtually non-existent. Fast forward to today, however, and Porsche are at it again, only this time with something far trickier. This is the all-electric Porsche Macan, and unlike the Taycan, this enters one of the busiest segments out there. The premium mid-sized electric SUV. Tesla, BMW, Audi, Mercedes, Jaguar, they've all got players in this space. So the big question is the Macan worth the hefty price tag, or are you better looking elsewhere? Well, that's going to be the question that we're going to try and tackle in today's video. But also, we're just going to have a bit of fun. It's been a while since I've had a Porsche on the channel, let alone one with over 500 brake horsepower. So welcome back to Auto Social UK. For all of the info on Porsche's next dip into the EV space, then please keep watching. And for more reviews like this, then you're in the right place. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on the bell notification if you never want to miss a video from me. First up, let's iron out the key specs of the Macan EV. The entry into the range is simply called the Macan, and it will cost you £68,500. Yep, that is the cheapest model that you can get. It's also the only one that uses rear-wheel drive. It's lighter by about 110 kilograms compared to the all-wheel drive cars, and it's been tuned for maximum efficiency. That means that it also has the longest range of any of the Macans, with up to 398 miles of WLTP. Power is at 360 PS, and it will hit the 62 in 5.7 seconds. The 4 is the starter of the all-wheel drive versions. It will cost you about £2,700 more than the entry level. It adds a front motor which bumps power up to 408 PS, and it cuts the 62 time to 5.2 seconds, and it also nudges the top speed up too. Range is of course slightly lower than the rear-wheel drive version, but it's still a very healthy 321 to 380 miles. I think that the 4S is the sweet spot in the range, and it's actually the one that I'm reviewing today. This will set you back just under £77,000. It is, however, more powerful at 516 PS, and it's quicker, so it takes just 4.1 seconds to hit the 62. You get between 318 and 377 miles. Although when I collected this car, it was actually reading just 328 miles at 99% charge. Clearly someone's been having a lot of fun before I collected it. Evidently. The Macan Turbo is the headline grabber, and this will set you back an eye-watering £96,900. With 639 PS and 1,130 newton-meters of torque, it rockets to the 62 in 3.3 seconds, and it will hit 162 miles per hour. Of course, range is affected, and it drops to 322 to 367 miles, but performance is outrageous for an SUV. Now, there is something which Porsche are notoriously naughty at doing, and that is their very extensive option list. So as I said, this is the 4S version of the Porsche Macan, and this will cost you from standard just under £77,000. Except this one that I have right here has a very long list of options. In fact, why don't we take a moment to run through all of those optional extras? The Aventurine Green paint, 22-inch Macan Sport wheels, the side blades painted in the exterior colour, an electric charging case cover, rear axle steering and adaptive air suspension, the tinted LED matrix headlamps, the model name painted in gloss black, electrically deployable tow bar system, comfort access or keyless entry, extended interior leather in black and chalk beige, interior package summer wood, the Porsche crest on the headrests, a panoramic opening sunroof, thermally and noise insulated glass, ISOFIX fitments on the passenger seat, a heated steering wheel, 14-way electrically adjustable comfort seats with massage function and ventilation, an augmented reality head-up display, a Burmester high-end surround sound system, a surround view parking camera with active parking support, And I really don't blame you if you lost count of what the price tag currently is. But with all of those options, this car comes in at a whopping £107,000, more than if you was to go for a turbo car, and £30,000 over its standard price tag. That is crazy. Some of those options are very nice, things like massage seats, a premium sound system, even a panoramic sunroof. You often have to pay for those. However, things like your adaptive cruise control, heated seats and keyless entry, in my personal opinion, those are things which should be standard on a £77,000 car. So whilst I think the Porsche Macan is a very nice option, you do have to be careful if you go too crazy on those optional extras. Okay. Deep breaths all round, I think. Let's try and continue with the rest of the video. And let's talk about styling. Looks are always subjective, but to me, this has got to be one of the best looking electric SUVs on the market. Porsche's design DNA is all over it. The coupe style roofline, the muscular haunches and the frameless doors. And of course, that continuous LED light bar which sits across the rear. It looks sleek and stylish, and probably most key to the brand's success. It looks like a regular Porsche Macan. Now this one in particular, as I mentioned, sits on 22-inch Macan Sport alloy wheels, and this is likely one of the reasons that I saw such poor efficiency when I collected the car. It sits on 20s from standard, and they look perfectly fine, and they're both going to aid with the ride comfort, especially if you haven't got the extra cash to go for the air suspension, and also they're going to help increase that efficiency, which is definitely helpful with an electric car. Aerodynamics are key for efficiency, and Porsche have gone to town here. There's air curtains, an adaptive rear spoiler, and even active cooling flaps. The result? A drag coefficient of just 0.25, making it one of the slipperiest SUVs that you can buy. So what is it like behind the wheel of a £100,000 Porsche Macan? Well, straight away it feels different to most electric SUVs. The seating position is low and sporty, and the steering, well, it's typically Porsche. It's precise, it's weighted, and it's full of feel and feedback. This car has adaptive air suspension and rear axle steering, both optional extras. At low speeds, the rear wheels turn opposites to the fronts, and this makes it feel like a much smaller car, but at higher speeds they actually turn the same way, giving you this rock solid stability even on the motorway. And then there's the acceleration. Put your foot down and there's that instant EV surge, but this feels amped up. The Macan 4S throws you back into your seat, snapping to 62 miles per hour in just 4.1 seconds, and it doesn't let up. There's no hesitation, no pause for gears, just a relentless wave of torque. It's the sort of shove that makes your passengers gasp, and even if you've driven fast EVs before, it's the way that this builds up that feels properly sports car-like. But it's not just about straight line pace either, it's the way that it handles in the corners. The steering is razor sharp with a level of feedback that you don't expect from an SUV which is this heavy. Tip it into a bend and you can feel that rear bias power delivery just pushing you out of the other side, almost like a hot hatch. Only this one weighs over 2 tons. The PA-SM suspension keeps everything flat and composed, yet it still soaks up bumps without shaking you around. Its dual personality is the most impressive thing about this car. One minute you're threading it down a B road, feeling every part of the tarmac, and the next you're cruising quietly with adaptive cruise control on the motorway. And it's family SUVs that need that split personality. A big part of the agility comes down to the weight balance. Porsche has mounted the rear motor as far back as possible, which gives the Macan a slightly rear bias setup, about 48-52 in the turbo and 54% of the weight over the rear axle in the rear-wheel drive version. For a tall SUV, that's unusual, and it makes the car feel planted when you turn in, with the rear helping you to steer your way through the bends rather than feeling like dead weight. And whilst the Macan's focus is on driving thrills, it hasn't forgotten about practicality. All models will tow up to 2,000 kilograms, which is impressive for an electric SUV. To put that into context, the Tesla Model Y is limited to 1,600 kilograms, and the Q8 e-tron, that manages 1,800 kilograms, and even the big BMW iX, that only edges ahead with 2,500 kilograms. That means that the Macan sits right up there with the best in class. So, crucially, Crucially, it will cope with things like a medium-sized caravan, a couple of jet skis, your prized racehorse, bars of gold. Sorry, I don't really know what rich people tow. But here's where the tech really starts to shine. Porsche's traction management system, the EPTM, constantly shuffles torque between the axles in just 10 milliseconds, 5 times faster than conventional all-wheel drive systems. That means if you push it too hard in a damp corner, it feels like the car is correcting you before you've even had time to react. In Sports Plus, it's sharper still, sending more drive forward when you pull out of bends for ferocious grip. Recuperation is equally as clever. The Macan can actually recover up to 240 kilowatts when braking, which is huge, about 40% of its maximum stopping power. In practice, it means that most everyday slowing is handled by the motors, with the mechanical brakes barely touched. Porsche has also tuned it so you can either coast smoothly when you lift off, or dial it stronger with the regen if you prefer that engine braking feel. It gives you the choice, and the choice is what makes this feel so natural to drive. Now, compared to rivals like the Audi Q8 e-tron or the BMW iX3, it feels far more connected to the road. Porsche hasn't just built another fast EV SUV, it's built one that makes you want to get up early on a Sunday just to go for a drive, or drive all the way to Reading to collect one for a weekend. So let's face it, we're already very aware that not everything inside of this cabin is standard on this 4S. But standard or not, it has to be appreciated as being truly beautiful. I especially love these chalk beige leather seats, especially with the embossed crests on the headrest. They feel truly special. And I really like the wood effect on the doors as well. This feels very classically Porsche. It doesn't feel like an electric vehicle, it feels like one of their classic combustion cars. And that's one of the things that I think Porsche do very well. They're not trying to completely reinvent themselves with the electric era. They're trying to bring their current cars into electrification, and I think they've done the right thing with that. I also love this steering wheel as well. It's so thin. It feels very slim and skeletal, and in my personal opinion, it feels really sporty without having a flat bottom steering wheel. Of course, with this having the upgraded Sport Chrono Pack, you do also get the drive mode button on the steering wheel as well, which I really appreciate. It's very easy to find when driving, and you can quickly toggle between normal and sport mode when you're feeling a little bit sportier. I also love the whole layout of this car as well. Of course, we have the upgraded passenger's side screen, which does feel extremely high-tech and very futuristic. It's definitely a luxury that you don't need to have, but I think kids would really appreciate it. And if you do a lot of long road trips, then it would be really nice to have this so someone could watch a film whilst you're driving. The one thing that I don't particularly like about this infotainment system is the main controls feel a little bit outdated. For instance, the map, if you compare it to the maps that you get on Renault products which run the Google system, they feel much more high quality. And even brands like Audi, their crisp infotainment systems just feel a step up from this system which is currently within the Porsche. But having said that, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which you're probably going to use most of the time, those are both standard and they're also wireless as well, and they feel very crisp when you're using those. I also really appreciate the fact that you've still actually got these air vents that you can actually move and interact with, rather than compared to Tesla's where you have to go all in the screen. And you do have a completely separate climate control screen, which has these very sleek shiny buttons which look like they might be touch, but they actually are physical buttons, which I really like. It means they're easy to use when driving and they feel tactile as well. You have this real feedback of a sound of a real heavy click as well. I really love those. To be honest, I'm struggling to find things that I don't like within this cabin. It feels very well thought out in its design, its setup. Everything is able to be reached and found easily, even when you're a slightly shorter driver. You've got plenty of storage inside the armrest. You've got a couple of cup holders which will fit big bottles inside here, which I really love. I had a big water bottle and it fit in there perfectly. You also have a bit of storage underneath, a nice big glove box, nice big door cards, and it just feels very luxurious without going too simplistic. They've definitely found the perfect combination of them both. The Porsche Macan has never claimed to be one of the most accommodating cars in the back or for families. If you want something bigger, then there are other cars in the Porsche lineup and also on the market. But in terms of what they do well, it's so comfortable back here. It feels really high quality. You've got these super soft seats. They're also heated in this model as well, but that is an optional extra. And you have the lovely extras like the embossed headrests. It feels really luxurious, but that's kind of where the positives end. This is actually the most accommodating Macan ever, so I've got a decent amount of legroom, but still a little bit tight. I've got really good headroom though, even with the panoramic sunroof, that's really good. But in terms of amenities, it falls short of a lot of the competition. You have got a pull down armrest, and in here you'll find a couple of cup holders, but that's really it. You haven't got anywhere to pop your mobile phone. There's nowhere to pop it on the backs of the seats, nowhere in this centre console, nowhere to hold devices, which is a shame for smaller children who want to watch things when you're driving. I'm sure you could get accessory packs, but once again, they're going to need to be paid to be upgraded. Just like the rear ventilation. So we have actually got 4-zone climate control in this particular Macan, but as I said, that is an upgrade. But you have got a nice amount of vents in the back, so even if you go for the standard climate, it's going to be perfectly fine. You've also got 2 USB-C charging points, which is good. Storage is okay, there's a little bit in the doors, but there could definitely be extra. This, however, is the most accommodating Macan ever, so I guess that's a positive. And you do have to remember that this isn't a large family SUV. It's more of an entry into the SUV market. It does have to be remembered that the Macan is the entry level into the Porsche SUVs, so it is the baby of the family, and for that reason it doesn't have a huge amount of boot space. You'll also notice for this electric car something else is missing from the back of the Macan, and that is the rear wiper, and with it how you release the boot, because one of my favourite quirky little features was on the Macan there was actually the boot release which was built into the rear wiper, but now there's no rear wiper. You'll find it just here next to the rear camera. So inside of this boot you get 540 litres, which is a decent amount. That's going to give you your weekly shop or a weekend away with the family. Unfortunately, however, there isn't any boot floor space underneath due to it being taken up by the upgraded sound system. You do have a nice wide opening, and with this car having the air suspension, if you want to drop it down, you can bring down the boot floor, and this means it's way easier to load heavier items in, or perhaps if you had dogs, it was easier for the dogs to get in and out. You also will find plenty of tie-down hooks, straps to hold things in place, and you also have some levers on either side to be able to drop down the rear seats. It isn't the most accommodating boot space, but it's pretty darn good. Despite the fact that I think it's very stingy that Porsche make you pay extra for keyless entry, one of the things that you get as standard, which I think is fantastic, is an electrically deployed bonnet. And why would you need to open the bonnet electrically? Well, because there's storage under there. So on the key, you just hold down the bonnet opener and then it electrically opens. And under here you have 86 litres of storage, which is enough for a couple of charging cables or any baggage that you don't want to leave in the car unattended, which I think is actually very handy. Top points for Porsche. So the big question is the Porsche Macan Electric worth it? Well, on one hand, yes, it's the sportiest SUV in its class. It looks fantastic and it's full of tech. It genuinely feels like a Porsche to drive, and that's not something that you can say about all electric performance SUVs on the market. But, and it's a big but, it's expensive, very expensive, especially once you add in all of those optional extras, which little old me, who spends most of her time in mainstream cars, their options I expect should be standard. And whilst the range figures are good on paper, in real world they're competitive rather than class leading. If you want the most fun to drive electric SUV on the market, then this is it. But if you want value for money or maximum efficiency, then rivals like the Tesla Model Y or even the Kia EV9 might make more sense. For me though, the Macan proves that Porsche hasn't lost its touch, even in the EV era. I really love the Porsche Macan. It has a price tag that I would never be able to purchase myself, but that doesn't stop me from absolutely adoring it. But let me know, what do you think? If you had the money, would you purchase this car? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you wouldn't, yet you had all that money, what would you buy instead? I really hope you have enjoyed the video. If you have, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. And if you want to see more like it, then you know what to do. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Until next time, guys, see you later.